Hello, and welcome to our 12th annual Lighting the Way conference for autism spectrum disorders in our community at Augustana University, and to our first virtual conference. My name is Dr. Julie Ashworth, and I'm a professor of education at Augustana College, where I'm preparing future teachers, and I'm very passionate about that. I taught for many years in the Sioux Falls School District. I actually just completed my 46th consecutive year of being in classrooms of all ages and differing abilities throughout my career. So I'm very passionate about preparing teachers so that they are more empathetic and compassionate, understanding and accepting and prepared to meet the needs of all students, but especially diverse students and students with differing abilities in their classrooms. And one of those passions that I use to help prepare teachers is using really powerful, authentic, diverse children's literature and young adult books to share with their students in their classroom to encourage conversations and actions and activities that will help future teachers develop a tremendous understanding and affirmation for their students that are of differing abilities. And today I'm going to share with you some books specifically for children and young adults that are on the autism spectrum. I'm also a mother of a son, Chris, who will have his 39th birthday next week and was diagnosed with autism after a lot of searching and traveling. Many years ago after he was born, autism wasn't a recognized disability in the state of South Dakota, and it wasn't easy to find the diagnosis. There was no education or intervention or awareness. It was really a challenging time. But my husband and I devoted our life to advocating for Chris at the local level in our own school district, and then at the state level, and have continued at the national level throughout our life with Chris. So I'm going to share with you today some amazing books, as I said, that will help you with your other children in your family members, and that you could share with your children's teachers or therapists or community members that your child and you are involved with. A story that I would share with you is I remember vividly when my older daughter, I have two children, Betsy and Christopher, who has autism, when she was coming home from kindergarten, and I was at home with Chris at that time, and I heard her coming in the door, and she was explaining to this little friend that was coming over with her. She said, you're going to see my brother in a few minutes, and he's kind of different. He doesn't actually talk like us or act like us, and he's kind of loud. And she was really struggling to try and prepare her friend for her little brother that her friend was going to meet in a few moments. And actually, it broke my heart to hear her share that. It still makes me emotional to think about it to this day. And at that time, there were no children's books or really any resources to help us as parents or siblings or family members to help describe and edify and confirm our kiddos with autism. So that was the beginning of my commitment to begin advocating for our son, Chris, in every way. So now we have an incredible amount of wonderful, authentic children's book and young adults literature books and books written by people on the spectrum to really help all of us of all ages understand and empathize and accept those that have differing abilities. So I'm going to be sharing some of those books with you now, and I have a list of all of these books and several more, and actually a whole list of all types of diverse children's books to help share diversity in all of its aspects. And that resource is on the autism website for you to access and share with others, and hopefully be able to order and use and have some of those books. So I'm going to start with a set of books that are relatively new. They were just developed in the last year, and it's a whole series of books, and they're called A Kid's Book About. And I have all of them, several of them listed in my resource list. I think there's 30 or 40 of them now. And each of them look like this: A Kid's Book About Autism, which just came out. And this is written by Justin P. Flood and David Flood, a father and son combo. And these books are really well done because they have limited graphics, wonderful, understandable text, and yet they're super engaging, I think, for all ages. So I'll just show you a little bit about what this book looks like so you can see how powerful these kids' book about autism. So there's a dedication, of course, in the front. And what I love is each book has an intro, like many books do, and that at the end of each book, there is an outro, which is what you can do following the book. So the intro is more and more kids are being diagnosed with autism every day. This means that it's inevitable that your kid will come into contact with someone with special needs or developmental disability. I like to say differing abilities. Your kid may even have special needs. I also like to say your child may even have different needs. I think we all have special needs. So the earlier they learn about others and how we all develop differently, the better. Kids have no idea the impact they have on those around them. We hope that this book turns on a light bulb in your kid's mind that inspires them to pause before they look and judge others. As you read this book, I encourage you and your kids to pause and reflect on Justin's story and ask questions, because understanding and empathy start there. That's the intro. So it begins and it says, "Hi, my name is David. This book is about autism. And I'm glad it found its way into your hands. Read this book with a grown-up that you know. You might have some questions they can help answer for you. My name is Justin, and I have autism. I'm writing this with my dad's help because my dad helps me organize my thoughts. He helps me with a lot of other stuff too. But of course, I know what it's like to have autism, so he couldn't write this book without me. That's one of the things I really like about this book. This is from the voice of Justin, who has autism. David here again. Here's the deal. Justin is awesome, and so are you. I could just stop there because it's that simple. But that's not why my son and I wrote this book. We wrote this book because we want you to understand more about autism and help the people who have it. The full name is Autism Spectrum Disorder. Since that's kind of a mouthful, we're just going to call it autism in this book. Autism is a developmental disability. Developmental means the way someone grows. Disability means that what comes easy to some might not be that simple for others because of the way their body or mind works. This means that the way someone has developed affects what and how they do things, which looks different for everyone. That is why we say that people with autism are on a spectrum. Look at this beautiful color wheel. Do you see how it just isn't one shade of blue? It has hundreds and hundreds of blue. That's a spectrum. Every shade is just as awesome, just a little different. People with autism are like that too. For example, you might meet someone who has autism who doesn't talk at all, and another who won't stop talking. That would be my son, Chris. Justin is the kid who won't stop talking, not even to take a breath. But language and talking is just one thing that people with autism may struggle with. They might also struggle with moving around, learning, understanding, independence, paying attention, making friends, and just interacting with the world around them in general. Hey, it's Justin. I'm still here. How's my dad doing so far? I wanted to come back and tell you some things that I struggle with. I get very anxious when I go up to someone and try to make friends with them because I'm afraid they don't understand me. Sometimes when I get really focused on something and someone interrupts me, it makes my head hurt and I get really angry. When I walk into a room, everything can sound so loud. When I look people in the eye, I feel like they're looking right through me, and that feels scary. Stop and think about that for a moment. How would that make you feel? Okay, it's me, David again. Are you understanding autism a little bit more now? I know it can be a little confusing because you can't see someone's autism. You might not be able to figure it out, even if someone has autism. Sometimes it looks like they're in their own world, and you can't join them, no matter how hard you try. And then here are some blurbs from his son, Justin. I hate the smell of shaving cream. What was that? Is there a dog barking somewhere? It's so loud. Please be quiet. I wish I could join Justin's world, and I never stopped trying as his dad. But what I've started to do instead is to let him teach me about mine. While we'll never know exactly what it's like, Justin has tried to explain how it feels for him, and now I'm going to try to explain that to you. When Justin walks into a new place, he sees everything there at the same time. All the time. He sees every color, sign, and person. He hears every sound in every direction, and he feels the air against his skin and the tags on his clothes. Kind of like this. And you can look at all those things. What's over there? I'm tired. That sign is really big. What's that smell? Where's it coming from? Those lights are really bright. My heart is beating fast. Are they talking to me? I don't know. Overwhelming. That's a lot, right? Talking about all that can be overwhelming for him. So he would walk out of the room and throw himself on the ground because it was all just too much for him. He's grown out of these things now, but he still struggles with interacting with others. This can sometimes make him feel left out. For example, I really like going to the movies. When the movie's over, I'm really excited and I want to talk about it with other people. This is Justin talking again. So I'll walk right up to them and ask them what they thought and try talking to them. My son Chris does this often in public. He just walks right up to people and starts asking them right away what instrument they play. But they'll just look at me like I'm weird, ignore me, or walk away. When I was a kid, I didn't get invited to many events, like birthday parties. I remember going to some with my sister for her friends, but not a lot of people would invite just me as their friend. I still don't have a lot of friends. I want to, but a lot of people won't even give me a chance. But it's not all bad. Like my dad said, people with autism are awesome. The struggles don't change that. It's true. They're smart, they're caring, they're compassionate, they're loving, they're beautiful, and they like a lot of the same things you do, no matter how old they are. This is Justin talking. I like movies, video games, anime, and old cartoons. I like chocolate, pizza, ice cream, hamburgers, chicken fingers, and french fries. I love trains and swimming. All of these things could be my son's exact words as well. I like meeting new people and getting to know them, even if they don't always understand me, just like anybody else. Here's David now back to tell you that if you know someone with autism, you're lucky. They can teach you so many things. Maybe you can talk about that with the grown-up who's reading this book with you. People with autism might take more time to understand, but this can be a good thing. It can be good because it slows all of us down. The world moves so fast, and a lot of us don't stop and take the time to get to know someone. Remember all those challenges that we talked about in this book? When we have to slow down for someone else, we can help make some of those things easier for them. Wouldn't you want someone to slow down for you if you were having trouble keeping up? You wouldn't want to be left behind, right? Justin, is there anything else you'd like to say? Nope, I gotta go. Here's the outro of the book, and it says, it would be impossible to cover all the information about autism in one book, or even 100 books. I have met, hugged, cried with, and listened to thousands of kids with autism. We have a saying in the autism community, if you've met one person with autism, guess what? You've met one person with autism. No two are alike, just like no two people are ever all alike. Yet on the inside, in all of our hearts and souls, we are all so similar. Your kids will no doubt have a lot of questions after reading this book, or your students in your classroom, because autism is such a huge subject that affects so many kids and their families. We hope that some of the ideas and examples in this book help start a conversation with your child about someone they know. We hope that they get excited about better understanding people around them. We hope that this book is one of the steps that you will take with them on their way to a life of dignity, respect, compassion, and true empathy for others. Justin and I hope that you'll write to us and share your experiences. We love connecting with people and are glad that we met you here. And then it says find more kids about, and it talks about all the other books that the kid books have. There's a place for notes, and it's just share your read. Tell somebody, post a photo, or give this book away to share what you care about. And that's a kid's book about autism. There's also some of my favorites, a kid's book about belonging, which is incredible. A kid's book about empathy. Talks about we are better together, and it has some beautiful, simple illustrations to go with the whole concept of empathy, which I believe we should be teaching children as young as 2 and 3 and 4 years old, all the way through adults. And this one's a kid's book about anxiety, which a lot of our kids on the spectrum, a lot of us have. So I listed several more of these books in my resource, and you can check those out. They're beautifully written, they're beautifully illustrated, and really a powerful resource to be used in your family and in schools and in community centers. A couple of my other favorite books that are newer out for kids with autism is My Friend Has Autism. It's an awesome book about 2 boys. This little boy's telling the story of Zach, his friend, and he talks about how much they have in common and how, because his friend happens to have autism, how things are different in their friendship as well. And at the back, it says what is autism, and it describes it really well and simply. And then it has a glossary for keywords about having the autism spectrum. And then there's more books listed to reference for more information. So this is a great book for kindergarten through upper elementary. This is another one that's also about friendship, and it's Since We're Friends, and it's an autism picture book. And again, it's about two boys that are friends. I also love both these books because they depict diversity in many other ways, as you can see as well. Kids of every ethnicity, every ability and background. Another one of my favorite books that you'll see on the list is Pedro's Whale. It's written based on a true story of a little boy with autism who went to kindergarten, and he had a deep love and interest in whales, which I do as well. That's why I love this book. And he took his stuffed animal whale to school the first day, and the teacher took it away and said, you can't have a stuffed animal because then everybody would want one. And, typical situation with the teacher, right? And of course, he hid under his desk and was extremely upset. And it's a great story because it talks about how the EA and teacher together worked together to understand Pedro better and to help him and confirm his love of whales and help him learn and become a part of the classroom. And all the other students learned so much about whales as well. Great story based on a true incident. This is also a true story. It's written by Holly Robinson Peete and her daughter Ryan. She's a famous actress and advocate and writer. And her daughter Ryan and is a twin to her brother Charlie. That's the name of my book, My Brother Charlie. And the little girl talks about what it's like to be a twin with her brother who happens to have autism. Gorgeous pictures and wonderful story of a twin sister having a brother with autism. Delightful book. This is a newer book that one of my college students just gifted me just this last month of class because she heard this woman on a podcast. And this woman happens to have 4 children, and I believe 2 or 3 of them are on the spectrum. And she decided to write a book because she was on a podcast. She started a podcast for moms of kids with autism, and they're like, you should write a book. So this is her story of her son, Daniel, finds his voice. This is also based, of course, on the true story of her son, Daniel, and their family, and how their family affirms and confirms Daniel with his autism. This is also another one of my favorite books, Just Ask. This came out a year ago by Sonia Sotomayor, our Supreme Court Justice in the United States of America. She happens to have diabetes, if you're aware of that, and she was always being questioned and stared at. And one time she was giving herself insulin outside of court in the bathroom, and some other women thought she was shooting up drugs as a Supreme Court Justice, right? So she wrote this beautiful book, Just Ask. Be different, be brave, be you. And it's got beautiful illustrations, and it talks about each type of differing ability. And it'll say, like, I'm Anthony, and I use a wheelchair to get around. Even though I can't run with my legs, I can go super fast. And then she puts in a really good question. How do you get from place to place? Of course, there is also one on a kiddo who happens to have autism. There's a kiddo who uses sign language. There's a kiddo who is visually challenged. And she talks about, I'm Bianca and I have dyslexia, so I have to work really hard and take my time when I'm reading and writing words. Sometimes I use a computer program to help me. I love doing things on my own. I have a great imagination. And then the question is, are you really good at something? What are you good at? So this book could be used for several short lessons on differing abilities too. So like I said, it's beautifully written. This is the little girl, who has a speech challenge. She stutters. Okay, and Julia has Tourette's syndrome, and Manuel has ADHD. So beautiful pictures and stories. And this is Nolan. It's helpful to me when the food I eat has a clear label that says it's nut free because I'm allergic to nuts, and he talks about that. So there's every type of differing setting for kids, and beautiful conversation starters like, how do you learn? What helps you learn best? Okay. And then at the end it says, hi, it's me again, Sonia Sotomayor. I ask questions too. When something seems different or new, I just ask my parents or my teachers, and they help me to understand, especially if my friends don't feel ready to explain. This is what I've learned. Imagine if all the plants in this garden were exactly the same. Like what if we could only grow peas? That would mean no strawberries or cucumbers or carrots. It might also mean no trees or roses or sunflowers. Just like in our garden, all the ways that we people are different make our neighborhood, our whole world really, more interesting and fun. And just like all of these plants, each of us have unique powers to share with the world and make it a very more interesting and richer place. What will you do with your powers? She asks at the end. Just Ask by Sonia Sotomayor. This book is a really fun book. It's called Emergency, and it's full of puns. It's written by Ezra Fields Myers. He happens to be Tom Fields Myers' son, and Ezra has autism. And we had Tom speak at one of our conferences years ago when Ezra was younger. He wrote the book Following Ezra. And Ezra has now grown up, and he's a gifted writer and illustrator. And he wrote about all the letters that live together in this big house. And it is the most fun book. And it's all puns on all these different letters and what happens when a couple letters get sick and can no longer be a part of our alphabet and what happens. It's just a delightful story about overcoming challenges. Emergency. This is another book that I have several books on my list for young adults as yourself too to read. And this is Asperger's Syndrome and the Universe in Everything by Kenneth Hall, who happens to have Asperger's. This is Beyond the Wall, Personal Experiences with Autism and Asperger's. This is the second edition. It's by Stephen Shore, who was also one of our premier speakers early on in our conferences. And I can remember so many of the stories he talked about in his keynote. He's a fascinating professor at a college as well. The last thing I would probably share with you is that I included several other books on the list besides autism-specific books that are just beautiful books that help kids understand and accept difference. A World of Kindness. Sorry about my dog barking in the background. I love Susan Verdi and Peter Reynolds' books. They have a whole series of these. They're beautifully done. This one is I Am Human. They have one called I Am Love, I Am Compassion, I Am Empathy, I Am Here. These are beautiful books to use with young children as well. So I hope that you've sparked your interest in using books to help children understand and accept those of us in their world and our world that are differing, and to understand that we all have gifts to offer, no matter how different we are, and no matter what our challenges are. And so best of luck as you continue journeying as a parent, especially with a child with autism, and as an educator as well. I hope you have a great summer, and I hope you read lots of great, diverse books.